Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I am Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk about the latest episode of Superman and Lois, which was called Loyal Subjects, spelled with a K for some reason. I'm not really sure what that's about. K for Krypton? K for Kryptonite? I don't know. Anyway, this episode starts off with Lois and her team, which includes Lana, interestingly, talking about how they're going to do a deep dive into Edge to find out what he's up to. Clark also is involved in it, by the way, since, of course, he is a reporter. They want to find out why Smallville. And it turns out that they're not really going to get to that answer just by regular investigative journalism. But anyway, we know that what happened now we know, I should say, what happened, and it's that Edge recruited people to host Kryptonian, I guess, souls or minds within themselves, and then gave them powers with ex-kryptonite. And he didn't do this against anybody's will that we know of. He claims to have, and they show him giving people the choice to go ahead and do it, to change their lives and to do this thing. So that's what all these people with superpowers are, and that's why they keep talking about how they're Kryptonians. See, I just thought in the beginning they were just people that he gave powers to with XK, but no, they're also hosting Kryptonian consciousnesses on top of that. So it's really freaky. We see Jonathan early in the episode, and he's not wearing a cast or a sling or anything, so his arm just got better, I guess, in a short period of time. I don't know, maybe that's a half Kryptonian thing. Maybe they just thought we wouldn't notice. I don't know. Anyway, I thought I'd make a note of it. Now, at a certain point, Clark hears a bank robbery taking place in Mexico, which, okay, I understand his superpowers make him capable of that, but like, I don't understand how this whole hearing thing works. Like, if your hearing's that good, you're going to hear everything at the same. You're going to hear pins drop in Mexico. You're going to hear pins drop in the state next door. How does his hearing filter out everything else, like, unconsciously? I haven't understood how that works when he keeps hearing these things. Like, I get it when he hears the sound from the super beeper, because that's a specific sound, whether it's just or come help or whatever, you're going to hear that. It's a thing, it's in the air, you can hear it. And it's distinct, it's Lois's voice, the kid's voice is a particular noise they've programmed into it, whatever it is. But so many people around the planet going, help, they've got a gun, oh my God, we're being robbed. There's got to be a ton of that happening at any given moment. And how does he, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. Anyway, so he flies off to take care of this situation, and he gets shot a bunch of times and eventually ends up getting knocked down because apparently the kryptonite gas is still affecting him. And this is not good, but he eventually gets up and takes care of the bank robbery and heads home. But it's really weird to see that happening because, there was no kryptonite present at the moment, yet here he is, semi-vulnerable to bullets. Anyway, Lois goes and confronts Edge. She says, I know what you're doing. He's like, what are you talking about? But then she goes on, and he's like, yeah, that's what I'm doing, so what? I told these people what we were doing, and they willingly went through with it. So she's like, okay, but we're still going to stop you, and she leaves. Well, she gets thrown out, actually. The next thing we see is that Jordan is experiencing an ice breath situation. The air in his lungs is turning into ice. He's hanging out with Sarah, trying to help her prep for her performance, and gets the feeling like he has to sneeze, so he kind of sneezes, and then it's like ice breath comes out. Ice comes out. And so he begs off and he calls his dad, and his dad's like, you have the infection too. So they then confront Lois's dad, and he's like, we didn't know it was going to do this. We didn't know the effects would linger. And Clark's like, yeah, but Jordan didn't even get hit with the gas. He caught it from me. So whatever you did to me, it became something that I can pass it on. It's contagious. So he's like, well, I'll try to figure out what it is and I'll get back to you. But Jordan winds up going into respiratory distress, so Clark has to fly him to the Fortress of Solitude to try to figure out what's happening. Meanwhile, Lana has been asking questions around the Edge premises, and Edge gets wind of it, and he brings her in and he says, you've been asking some questions. Well, here's what I'm prepared to tell you and prepared to offer you. And then the scene sort of cuts to Lois telling her dad, basically, F you. Finally, like, she's like, you did this, and this is unconscionable, and when this is all over, go away and don't come back. I was like, finally, she told him to hit the road. But then they flash over to the Fortress of Solitude, where the computer basically tells him, yeah, you have to burn. He tells Clark, you have to burn the kryptonite gas out of him. So Clark basically had to get a hold of Jordan and hold on to him while these lasers literally zap him to burn the kryptonite out of him. So it was pretty intense. But I guess that's what it took to cure him. Now, at this point, they go back to Sarah, who I guess asks Jonathan, what's up? Where's Jordan? How come he took off? Was it me? And Jonathan's like, no, I assure you, it wasn't you. Something must be going on. And then they also go to her recital, and they show the scene where she's doing the recital. Oh, Jordan's not here. Who's going to play? I don't think I can do it. But she goes up, and she's ready to quit, basically. But her dad comes on with a guitar and backs her up, and she does the performance. And there's a little bit of a scene where you see one of Edge's employees, like the switch goes off and she becomes the Kryptonian, because I guess it's a delayed thing. And she walks off, and I'm thinking, okay, did the dad well, first of all, I'm thinking, did Lana get possessed? Because she shows up there, because we don't know. And then I'm thinking, what about the husband? Because he's been acting weird the whole episode, and, talking about how he's a changed man. But he goes off to follow the Asian woman that left. And Lana gets on the phone with Lois, and she's like, yeah, Edge offered me this thing, but I didn't take it. But I think so-and-so took it. The Asian lady who was also at this recital to watch her kid. And Lois is like, okay, well, that's not cool. But just as this conversation is wrapping up, or actually it gets interrupted, Lois and Jonathan are attacked at the Kent farm by Leslie Lar and that big beefy guy that attacked Lois before in a previous episode at a motel. But fortunately, Lois's dad breaks in with a kryptonite gas gun and gasses them, even though they kind of toss him around a bit. But he gasses them, and it allows Lois and Jonathan to escape. At which point, I was thinking, this might be justification for even making these weapons in the beginning, because they wouldn't necessarily be just for Superman. They could be for any Kryptonian that might show up. They don't know that every single Kryptonian in the universe is dead for sure. So I think it sort of justifies the fact that they made these weapons. Anyway, the other question I had, though, was why are these people affected by the gas? They're not actual Kryptonians. They didn't get their power from the sun. They were never exposed to a red sun. They only have Kryptonian consciousnesses, this says, in human bodies, and they got the powers from XK. So I was a little thrown off by the fact that the gas would affect them, but I don't know, maybe it's a property of the XK that they were given their powers with that makes them vulnerable to kryptonite. I don't know. Anyway, it worked. Now we find out that Jonathan, either with Clark's knowledge or without, had got a hold of a red sun gun, and he kept it under the floor in the barn. So when Lana's husband shows up and really lets it be known that he did in fact become a Kryptonian, and he goes to get Lois and Jonathan shoots him with the red light gun and slows him down. Superman then shows up and handles it, and we realize that they've all gone, the bad Kryptonians, and the situation is resolved. Now, the husband says, I didn't know exactly what he was doing to me. He didn't lay it out to me. I accepted what he said he wanted to do, but I didn't really know what he was doing. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe it is. But it comes out in this episode that Lois and Clark knew about XK. And I'm like, how would they know about XK? My impression was that XK was something that Edge had discovered existed and was in Smallville, but that Clark didn't necessarily know about. But I guess he does, and Lois knows about it. So I'm thinking now, did they already know about it from the previous episode? I guess they did. I don't know. Anyway, at this point, what happens is Edge calls Superman to a meeting, and he meets up with him, and he's like, I know what you're doing. We're going to stop you. And Edge says some gobbledygook, but then reveals that he himself also has the powers and calls himself Kal-El's brother. He says, I'm your brother, Kal-El, basically. And it's like, brother, what? So we're going to have to find out what that is next episode. People are speculating he's some form of General Zod. That would be cool, but I don't think that's what's happening. I think it's something else, but we'll find out in the coming episodes. For now, that's all I have, so I'm going to take my leave, and as always, I say, peace and long life.